In this video, we're going to talk about story spoilers for Horizon Forbidden West. And in particular, we're going to talk about what I think are kind of plot holes within the main overarching final story. But you should not watch this video or listen to this video unless you have played the entire main quest and you have gotten to the end of the main quest and you know all about this. So if you keep on listening from this point on, I cannot help you if you hear story spoilers. So this is your chance to leave and come back after you finish the main quest. Subscribe to the Linus Wilson channel. We give you the secrets to crush Horizon Forbidden West. Okay, so I thought at the end of Horizon Zero Dawn that there was going to be one of two things that we found out in the next game. We're going to either find that the signal that destroyed Gaia and caused Hades to take over, and Gaia basically committed suicide so that Hades could not destroy the world, and Gaia's last dying thing was to create the zygote of the clone of Elizabeth Sobek that we know as Aloy, so that she could reboot Gaia and defeat Hades. And that was the first game, right? And when we got to reach for the stars, my hypothesis was either the Zeniths, the people that were part of the Odyssey project that were going to Sirius, sent the signal, or a rogue AI such as the Vast Silver, which we read about in like the data points, had sent the signal. So it was either an AI, a rogue AI, or the Zeniths. As it turns out, I was partially right that it was a rogue AI of the Zeniths. So, the thing that bothers me with this whole plot line is that the Zeniths, and also Sylens, but the Zeniths too, had a lot of interest to not take credit for unleashing Hades. But they certainly did. Indeed, Tilda, when you get to the part where after Varl dies and Tilda saves Aloy in the interlude, All That Remains, Aloy asks her point blank, what caused the signal, and she says that the Zeniths wanted to start fresh, right? So she lies about the fact that there's this rogue AI created of the Zeniths' consciousness that sent the signal. And why would she do that? I don't think that there's any good reason for her to do that. And in particular, I don't, after the Zeniths lost Beta, right? Now, we're just going to ignore the fact that they were not able to find Aloy prancing around the world, and they could only find her when they went for Hephaestus and Gemini. But beyond that, once Aloy had Beta, why did they not want to negotiate with Aloy? Because they both basically wanted the same thing. They wanted a copy of the terraforming system and all the AIs. So they wanted a copy of all the different AIs within the Gaia system, and they wanted to use it to terraform their world, right? In the case of the Zeniths, they wanted to go to a random planet where Nemesis could not find them and use that. But they don't really care what happens to Earth, right? They're jerks, but they're not megalomaniac, they want to destroy everything jerks. They're just selfish jerks. So why not just let's make a copy for everybody and go our separate ways? And indeed, they didn't even need to take Beta with them because it's going to take them so many years because Sirius was like between 20 and 70 years away, or 20 and 17 years away. And why do I know that? Because Aloy is about 20, 19 or 20. Beta is 17, right? They created Beta only because they were coming back to Earth to control Gaia. So they don't need Gaia until they get to another planet. The nearest planet was Sirius, which was destroyed by Nemesis. So wherever they go in a random direction, it's going to take longer than going back to Sirius. And so they could have grown a new Beta. They could have grown a Gamma, right? So they didn't even need Beta. They just needed Gaia and the subordinate functions, a copy of that. And Aloy could have given that copy, right? Aloy could have totally given that copy of Gaia and all the subordinate functions, or they could have traded Gaia and all the subordinate functions, and there was no reason to kill each other, right? Now, I guess you can say they were arrogant and they just thought they could just roll over Aloy and kill her. But she was, at least by the mid part of the game, she was successful in eluding Erik and capturing Beta, right? And so she had shown some competence and there was some risk in not, negotiating with her. And there was really no reason to go at war with her. And they had already lost one of their members that was killed when Beta was recovered by Aloy. I think it was Verbena, if I can find her. Maybe she's down here. If she's even in here. She might not even be in here, because she's not that important. But Verbena was killed. They knew she was killed, so they knew they could get killed by Aloy and the natives. So why not just negotiate with them and trade copies at no cost to one another and then go their separate ways? That might even speed up the process of them getting away from from Nemesis. I mean, the only justification you can say why would Tilda and the other Zeniths not want to fess up to this is that they were embarrassed. But really? That was it? They were embarrassed? I don't know. I just think that just doesn't... That's not strong enough of motivation. Okay, so the other major issue, of course, is with Sylens, right? So Sylens does address this, his behavior in this and why he was in an adversarial mode with Aloy after he knew that Aloy was deadly. So I understand he wanted to, do experiments on Hades on his own, and Aloy would have never approved of that. Okay, that's fine. But once he did those experiments and let Hades die, right? He knew what Nemesis, he said knew what Nemesis was coming to, and he knew that they needed to get, Gaia and everything from the Zeniths, and so he just cooked up the same scheme he cooked up in the first game, right? So instead of being with the Karja in Shadow, he teamed up with Regala and the Rebels, and it was basically his same scheme that didn't work in the first game that got all the Rebels killed and on the bad side of Aloy, and he was doing the same thing instead of just teaming up with Aloy in the first place, right? Because he'd already seen his Rebels go down and his schemes not really work. And in the end, it was Aloy that triumphed. So I don't know why he didn't join with her in this game. And the only reason I can see for that is that they want to have Rebel bases, right? So they want to have you take over 6 bases and 20 outposts, and that is like a game activity, and having Sylens join with them was kind of a way of integrating that, and the fact that Sylens was aiding the rebels, I just think it was kind of repetitive. It was just a really repetitive way to make the game. And, you know, the rebels could have been out there without Sylens helping them. And I know you want to make him sneaky and stuff, but it seems just too repetitive from the last game, in my opinion. And that's, you know, like I said, I when I rated this game, I rated very highly on gameplay, but not so great on story. And this is part of the reason. So I guess I understand why Sylens was the way he was, and why we had Regala and all this from a gameplay perspective, not from a story perspective. But you know, I think that it wasn't great. It was too repetitive from the previous game, and Sylens, you know, Sylens and Aloy were basically on the same side, and Sylens did not have a solution for how to deal with Gaia without Aloy. That Aloy is the key to Gaia. Beta is the key to Gaia. The genetic code there. I actually, you know, I think there was a lot of speculation going into this game that Sylens was going to create his own beta. He was going to have a baby beta in this game, just so he could, you know, unlock all the Gaia subordinate functions and communicate with Gaia, because he needed the DNA to unlock that. But that wasn't where they went. So those are my biggest criticisms with the story, that I think that both Sylens and the Zeniths could have allied with Aloy at the very beginning of this game, or earlier in the game, when they saw that the Nemesis was a real problem, and they could have blasted off the world, and Nemesis would still be coming for us in the episode 3 of this, so Horizon 3, because the Zeniths could have left. They got what they wanted. Aloy got mostly what she wanted, and then but she has a new threat that's going to destroy the world. I guess the other thing about Hephaestus, it became very clear to me at the end of the game that they can't have Hephaestus ever become under control of Gaia and tamed, because otherwise we'd have no robot dinosaurs to fight. So that was the whole reason why it never made sense to me why Hephaestus had to be freed at the Zenith base to fight the Zeniths. They had to have some reason. I didn't buy the reason that they gave me, or it wasn't explained to me well enough. And so it's kind of, I think it's ironic that they explained things so badly at the end in Singularity, and so quickly, and they spent the whole game explaining things in detail over and over throughout the main quest, throughout the dialogues, but they didn't, maybe it's because there was no good explanation, and so a shorter explanation that is confusing is better than a longer explanation that it indicates that the plot has all kinds of holes. Alright, so those are my thoughts on the main plot. I'm excited for the third installment. I'm also interested, what Sylens has up his sleeve. I hope he has something good up his sleeve now that he's cohabitating with Aloy. If you've wandered around the base post after Singularity, Sylens is there, so I wonder what he's up to. Obviously he couldn't blast off into space for the same reason that that Tilda couldn't blast off in space. They needed Aloy, or at least Beta, to run Gaia. But, I think it's not true, because Tilda could have created a beta or a gamma, another clone, and so could have Sylens potentially. So they didn't necessarily need Aloy for that if they had the copy. I just don't know. I can see why maybe Aloy would say, I'm not going to share a copy with you, and I certainly wouldn't want to go on a rocket ship with you. That's definitely not in her character. I think it's true she would want to save the world. But I think that, the whole Tilda storyline I thought was really, really fraught. I think all the bits about the immortality with Tilda was driven by the idea that we have to have someone that's obsessed with Aloy, and she's obsessed because she had the relationship with Aloy's clone, or Aloy's originator, Elizabeth Sobek. I thought that was obvious in the first holo call when you heard Tilda talking to Elizabeth Sobek that they had a relationship, but some people I think who watched that didn't catch that. But even though it wasn't spelled out, it wasn't said, hey, we have a relationship. It was just like, it was the way they talked. But so they had to have that same person, and so to have that same person had to be 1,000 years old. And to have that person be the same person, then they must have these great genetic advances on the Odyssey ship, or the Far Zeniths ship. And that meant that, I just thought that was super implausible. Of all the things that are implausible within the story, the robots, the AI that always works, etc. But to, it just seemed like they had like a really limited payload on that ship. Really limited amount of people that could get there. I didn't believe that you could have enough scientists on that ship to make the kind of breakthroughs that they needed to. They didn't have the resources on that ship to make the breakthroughs. I kind of would have believed that maybe they were in, that they iced them up. I might have bought that. That's been a trope I think they have in a lot of science fiction. It seemed a little implausible to me, but maybe everything is implausible, so you should just accept it. But they had to do that so that Tilda was obsessed with Elizabeth's clone, right? And I guess the other thing is, when Tilda goes crazy at the end and says, hey, I'm going to be Spectre Prime, and I'm going to beat you down, and I'm going to lock you up, and I'm going to be the cave woman, and you're going to go in my rocket ship, and you're eventually going to love me for it. I would have thought that somebody that old would have been just a little bit more cautious and would have thought of a better approach to this whole thing. Then, hey, I'm just gonna tie you up, and you're going to be my love slave or whatever. It's just, it just didn't seem like that was not a very subtle approach. And boy, I think that if they had given some more subtlety to all of the Far Zeniths, boy, that would have made the story so much better. I would have liked to know Gerard's motivations, why he didn't, want to negotiate with Aloy, or made him like more human. That's fine. Erik is a terrible person that likes to kill people. Fine, I get it. But Gerard and the other Zeniths, maybe we could have made them fallible, right? I think in the first game they made Ted Faro fallible. He was awful at the end, but he was fallible. You could see his humanity. He was a jerk, but there was you could see his motivations at least, right? And maybe this kind of mutation, immortality line. So I totally believe that Ted Farrow could have stocked his bunker much better with scientists than Far Zenith could have, and would have had more materials, etc., etc. Than the Far Zenith were able to do. So I thought that if his genetic engineering failed, so would the Far Zenith genetic engineering. But I guess they just wanted to have the kind of horrifying aspects of him just suffering for 1,000 years as some brain dead mutant. Anyways, those are my thoughts on the main story beats and the main reveals. I guess the other thing is, I think we really learned from Game of Thrones was that if you live by the surprise, you kind of die by the surprise in terms of story-wise. That if you're always trying to shock and surprise, and that's your way of telling a story, then you're going to come up with some really implausible, bad stories because you've not really built up the motivations of the characters, and people just seem kind of crazy in the end in the effort to surprise the audience. And to be honest, I didn't think the ending was a surprise at all. I thought it was entirely predictable going into the game without playing the game, with knowing nothing about the game except that what was in Horizon Zero Dawn, that a rogue AI sent a signal to Hades to destroy the world. That was obvious. That was almost obvious. So all these weird motivations for the Far Zeniths and weird motivations for Sylens, which some effort was made to explain them, but not really, they all fall flat because you're trying to surprise us in the way that Game of Thrones started falling flat as it tried to surprise us in seasons 5, 6, and 7, and 8. All right, subscribe to the Linus Wilson channel. We give you the secrets to crush Horizon Forbidden West.